Hello whisky fans, today we've got another brand new release from Scotland's most southerly whisky distillery. It is Bladnoch, and this one is Bladnoch Vinaya. So this is a brand new no age statement release from Bladnoch. So I previously reviewed the 10-year-old bourbon expression, which is now discontinued. It's been replaced by the 11-year-old, which I haven't had a chance to try yet. So when I saw that this one had been announced, I immediately wanted to try it because I think that they're doing really good things over at Bladnoch and I wanted to see what they're doing. But I was also a little bit concerned because this is a no age statement whisky, and in my opinion a lot of no age statement whisky is an attempt by distilleries to pass off immature stock for often the same price as a 10-year-old or maybe even a 12-year-old. And also this Bladnoch Vinaya is matured in a combination of sherry and bourbon casks. Now, a no age statement sherry matured whisky again kind of sets off alarm bells for me, because a lot of distilleries think that they can take an immature no age statement whisky and give it a little flavour dip cask finish with the sherry casks at the end of its maturation to try and cover up a lot of the flaws. And more often than not, when they do that, I think that you tend to end up with something that's more akin to a high ABV sherry rather than a sherry matured Scotch whisky. And the problem with that is that you lose so much of the distillery character, and that's really one of the reasons why when I first reviewed one of the new releases from Bladnoch, I went for that bourbon expression, because I really wanted to see that distillery character. I did actually try the Bladnoch Samsara at about the same time as I tried the 10-year-old bourbon expression, and the Samsara had a red wine treatment, and I do feel that red wine treatment was a little bit too much, and as I said, I think it just covered up a little bit too much of the distillery character, which was a real shame. But it is important to be open-minded. Just because this is no age statement and it's got some sherry casks in there, that's not to say it's going to be a bad whisky. So let's see how this goes. What I will say about this new expression from Bladnoch is absolutely 10 out of 10 on the presentation and packaging. Yet again, absolutely nailed that. Comes in this really hefty square glass bottle. It's basically a decanter with a cork stopper. Looks really nice, really traditional, really nice label there. And the box wastes no space at all, really compact form factor. And it's also important to point out at this point before I forget that I also really love that I ordered this directly from the distillery, paid for it with my own money, and I got a really fair price for it from the distillery website itself, £50, and actually got free delivery as well. I'm not sure why that was, if that was a special offer or if that's always the case when you spend £50 or more perhaps, but it's really good to see that a distillery is offering fair prices and free delivery on their products, because personally it really annoys me when you try and go direct to a distillery and some of them, they charge you more for going direct than you can pay if you go to some of the online retailers. In particular, my local distillery, the English Whisky Company, if you buy from their website direct, you get fairly nasty shipping fees and the prices are actually higher than if you go to a retailer. It's really not the way to build up a loyal following, and it's really good to see that Bladnoch are doing the right thing there. So as for the details on the label, Vinaya, by the way, means respect and gratitude, and that's respect and gratitude from the current team at Bladnoch for the distillery's founders, so that's a nice little touch again there. Other than that, it's 46.7% ABV, non-chill filtered, sherry and bourbon cask matured. Now, the 10-year-old bourbon expression, I think I did point out that on the label for that one, it said non-chill filtered, but didn't mention anything about colouring. Now on this bottling, if you look at the side label, it does actually say natural colour. So that's where it matters on the label, and confirms that that is 100% natural colour there. No artificial colourings added. Again, 10 out of 10, brilliant effort from Bladnoch. Apart from that, there's no age statement on there. I personally would have liked to see an age statement on there, even if it's a low number, but you can't have everything, can you? So let's get some in the glass and see what we've got. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this is the first time that I've nosed and tasted this. there's quite a bit gone from the bottle. But you'll have to take it from me that when I first opened this and first tried it, I was really pleasantly surprised, because I was a bit concerned it being a sherry treated no age statement whiskey. But the nose that you get from this when you first tip it into the glass, it's so intense and sweet. The sherry treatment really works. On the nose I'm getting lots of sweet honey and caramel, really intense sweetness, and there's a hint of Greek yogurt with honey in there as well. Getting lots of lovely fruitiness, raisins, sultanas, apricots. Also getting some really nice maltiness and quite a hint of polished oak and some really nice wood spice in there as well. I think that this whiskey does have a little hint of youthfulness to it, but that youth is well hidden or well corrected, for a better word. As I mentioned before, a lot of distilleries are guilty of using a sherry treatment to cover up youth, and in a way I guess that's kind of what Bladnoch have done here, but it just works so much better than the average sherry treatment on a young whiskey. Let's see how it tastes. Again, the immediate arrival on the palate is incredibly rich and sweet and full. There's lots of really rich, sweet and sour sherry influence. It's not the kind of sherry that's just sweet oranges and raisins. It's not a simple sherry treatment. It's really got quite a lot more depth than what you would expect from the average sherry cask. Also getting lots of sweet honey and caramel coming through from those bourbon casks, and also a really nice dry grassiness, that kind of stereotypical lowland character that you might expect. I do think that the sweetness on this one, combined with the spirit profile, it's a little bit reminiscent of a cognac. Especially on the palate, there is something a little bit cognac-y about this one. As for the finish, I'm going to say long, sweet and syrupy. On one of my, probably my only criticism of the Bladnoch 10-year-old bourbon expression was those dry, tannic, extractive, woody notes on the late palate and on the finish, and you'll be pleased to hear that that's completely gone in this new expression from Bladnoch. And I don't think that's being covered up by the sherry. I think they've just used some different casks, different cask types or different ages in this one, and it's really not a problem. So as for a grade, I'm going to give this one a B. So the previous 10-year-old bourbon expression I really liked, and I think I gave that one a B-. So I'm going a step up for this one. I think it's an excellent no-age statement expression, although if I'm honest, again, I would have preferred a low-age statement. But my fear is that this one's going to be an immature, really young, rough, spirity expression. They've all really been put to rest. This doesn't really taste any younger than the 10-year-old bourbon expression at all. I would probably guess that this might be 8, maybe 9 years old. You can never be quite sure that the sherry isn't covering up some of the youth, because it does often have a habit of doing that. But I think this one works really well. The sherry influence is really well integrated, and it is another delicious element to this whiskey. So my question to Bladnoch now is, where do you go from here? Can you do any better? I think they probably can. Thanks for watching. Cheers.